Hey everybody, today is August 24, 2026, and today I'm going to talk about the price of Bitcoin and where I see the price of Bitcoin headed for the month of September. Before we begin, please read the disclaimer and you can pause the video as you read it. Okay, so I haven't made a video in the last 2 months. I think the last video was in late June, and the reason is that I haven't been getting a lot of views on YouTube, and to be honest, I've been more or less on X. If you haven't followed me, please follow me on X. It's EddieLux_. So I've been posting more on X basically, and yeah, so I've been thinking about pivoting my YouTube channel to more like a lifestyle luxury brand stuff. So if you've noticed, I've been posting more videos of like luxury products, credit cards, and luggage, and I'm gonna do more, have more like luxury shoe products that I've been making videos, and I'll probably come out in the later months. But yeah, I just haven't been getting a lot of engagement on YouTube, so I don't really feel like motivated to make videos, to be honest. But I figure I'll just do a compromise and maybe do like a Bitcoin video a month. I'll probably stop doing the stock videos, at least for now. I'll do a Bitcoin video just because it's just nice to have a different format. Most of my stuff on X is really just posting. I don't really post a lot of videos or any sort of like audio, visual sort of interaction. So anyways, where we left off last time was around late June, right? And I basically said this, right? Basically what happened was Bitcoin went up to the 200-day moving average, which is a very important level of resistance. And basically it got rejected, so it plunged, right? It plunged about 30%, right? And we're already down like pretty much 50% year to date. So it basically plunged, and this is how important the 200-day moving average is, right? Now look what happened. We basically spent the last 2 months chopping sideways, right? And what happened was the bears were trying to bring the price of Bitcoin down below 60,000, but they couldn't do it, right? Because the whales were absorbing supply. And what happened was after all that, we suddenly had a huge move up, right? This first candle was last Wednesday, and after it closed above the 200-day, right, which we got rejected here, which led to the huge plunge in the first place. Basically, we saw a huge move up higher, right? All these shorts got squeezed, and a lot of people left on the sidelines, right? I spent a lot of time on X over the weekend, and there's a lot of people who are still sidelined. They're like posting cope comments about, oh, it's gonna go down. I've seen some people say it's gonna go down even lower. It's gonna retrace the entire move. But honestly, like this sort of move is pretty common when you see the breakout from a bear market bottom to a new bull market, right? I mean, I've been in Bitcoin since 2013, so I've seen this over and over again. Last time was in 2022, late 2022, right? Basically went down, went sideways for a couple weeks, and then we had this huge candle, right? This 22% candle, and this basically marked the bottom of the bear market and the start of the new bull market. Even going back to 2019, right? We basically had this bottoming in late 2018, staircase upward, and this huge candle, 26.7%, huge candle, right? And that's basically what we're seeing. Like, just look at this pattern, right? Huge candle, which leads into the new bull market uptrend. So that was 2019, right? April 2019. This is January 2023, right? Huge candle of 22%, leading up to the new bull market, which went just up higher and higher. And look, it never retraced back to give people who are sidelined or missed this entry a second chance. Just kept going up, right? And I believe that's what we're seeing right now. I believe that we are seeing the bottom of the bear market and the start of the new bull market. Right, look at this candle. This is a 23.6% candle, right? This is actually bigger than the last candle that started the last bull market. This is 22%, this is 26%, right? And look what happened last time. It just went, over here, like it just went straight up. Same thing here. So all the people waiting for this thing to pull back, to retrace, again, to give them a second chance, so many people are sidelined, or they're shorting or coping. You might not get that opportunity. Like, I'm not somebody who can see the future, right? I'm just talking about probabilities here and pattern recognition from previous cycles. Look, it could possibly retrace, right? But I'm just saying that the probability is pretty low, especially when you look at the historical data. Like once Bitcoin has a big breakout after going sideways for a long time in a bear market, right? It tends to not go back. And honestly, it would be bearish if it did. If this whole move retraced, even below the 200-day moving average, it probably is gonna go lower, right? So it would be in the best interest of bulls to keep this level, defend this level, right? But anyways, going back to my previous post, I think in the last video in late June, I also talked about how, getting above 65, 70,000, these levels weren't also important. We basically just blasted through that. That's also another bullish indicator, right? The fact that we just blasted through all these like shorter term resistance level now to this major level, right? So obviously now we're around 80,000. And 80,000 is probably going to be certain resistance, right? If you look at the order books, there's a lot of sell orders on here. So, and it's also the previous part where we got rejected last time in May, right? And we saw this plunge 30%. So obviously there's going to be a lot of sellers here, right? Including short sellers But those are opportunities to basically squeeze the market higher potentially, right? So let's look at some other indicators, right? Here we got fear and greed index. So basically fear and greed index has been at fear or extreme fear basically all year. And now with the pump last week, we're starting to see it go up, right? So now it's at greed. And it's kind of funny because you hear people online and they're like, oh man, it's at greed now. This is the time to be careful. It's like, dude, it's been at fear and extreme fear all year. We all have 1 week where it went to greed and everyone's telling you to sell. That's how you know that there's a lot of people sideline, right? I'm not trying to make fun of them. That's just a fact, right? Like we only have 1 week in this year that's like solidly greed, right? In the fear and greed index. And so many people are still saying that, oh no, this is just a bull trap. It's gonna go lower. So in my opinion, that's just more fuel that we're probably gonna go higher from here, right? Now let's look at the bigger picture, right? So I made this post on X, and again, follow me please, EddieLux_ on X. This is from July 2019, right? So this post from July 2019, I basically said the same thing that I just said earlier, which is that I saw a similar pattern to, let me find it, yeah, second half of 2022, which is when we went down below 200-day moving average. I said that we were seeing a bullish divergence, which is when the price goes down and the RSI goes up. This is a weekly chart, by the way. Same thing we're seeing here, right? This is 2026. Price going down, weekly RSI going up. So this usually is a bullish divergence that leads to the higher, right? And so basically I said that we're seeing a very similar pattern to what we saw in the end of the last bear market, right? And again, this is back in July 2026, July 19th, 2026, right? Basically a month ago. And then I made this post basically on August 20, which is 4 days ago, basically. August 20, 2026. As predicted, Bitcoin now broke out in a similar pattern as second half 2022. And the 2026 Bitcoin bear market is likely in. Look at this candle, right? Massive candle, just like the end of the last bear market, right? This is 2023, January 2023, right? Again, everything I discussed was right. Bullish divergence, defending this 200-week moving average. And yeah, so of course, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not saying I know exactly that history repeats, but it does tend to rhyme, right? It tends to rhyme. And we saw this, again, I showed you earlier in 2019 to 2020, right? We saw the, see that, yeah, we saw the, yeah, over here, we saw the end of that bear market as this new bull market emerged, right? And again, this new weekly candle is a lot bigger than that one. So it wouldn't be surprising if we just kept this momentum up without any retracing. Now, of course, I do think that at 80,000, because we were rejected earlier in May, I do think that it'll be heavy resistance, right? So we're probably gonna go sideways for a while, defend this level before pushing up higher. I think a lot of short sellers are gonna enter here and they're gonna get squeezed along the way up. A lot of sideliners are gonna wait for it to go down, and then while it goes up, they're gonna panic in, and that's just gonna drive the price even higher, right? We might even get to 90,000 next. But yeah, I think it's gonna look pretty similar to what we saw in early 2023, right? Where it kind of, get rid of, I accidentally drew a dot right here. So yeah, so basically we had a pump up here. It's this 22% pump, and then we consolidated for a couple of weeks before the next leg higher, right? And all the people here thought it was gonna come down. There was actually a trap over here back in March, right? But a lot of short sellers basically got in there and they got whipped out of their position and this went higher. And all the people who basically were hoping for lower prices to get back in after selling along the way down in the bear market, basically they were basically FOMOing and driving the price even higher, right? So I think we're gonna see something similar. We're probably gonna consolidate, trick people, and then rip up higher. And the next level of resistance will be this area where we consolidate around 90,000, right? 90 to 95,000. And of course, 100,000, the big milestone, round number 100,000 is going to be the next level of resistance, which we also have a lot of consolidation at that level as well, right? So yeah, so now going back to some other things, we can look at the 2-year multiplier, which is a general chart that tells you when to buy and sell, right? It's very easy to read. Basically, when the price of Bitcoin goes below the green line, it's generally a good time to buy. And historically, that's been the case. When the price of Bitcoin gets closer to the orange-red line, it's generally a good time to sell. Now, in the last cycle, we didn't really get close to that, but still you could still made a lot of money if you bought down below the green line, even if it didn't give you an exit signal, right? And here we are now, like, still below the green line. So even if you miss this move, right? Even if you miss the move, the 22 to 20, sorry, I forgot how this is. So the 23.6% move, right? Massive move. Even if you missed it, we're still below the green line, which historically has been a great place to buy. So you're still not like out of luck. This is why I tell people, like, I don't give financial advice, right? Do your own research, but generally speaking, it's a pretty good time to buy, even though it made a big move this last week, right? And we haven't even crossed above the green line. And if you look at the previous cycle, right bottom here, you can see like the equivalent of the pump was in January 2023, right? So huge move up here. We're still below the green line for a long time. And if you bought in what was considered later, like after the pump happened, you still made a lot of money along the way up. So it went up to 126,000, right? So it's still pretty early in the bigger scheme of the bull market, right? We're just beginning the new bull market, in my opinion. So, okay, pi cycle top indicator. This one, again, gives you a pretty good indication when to sell. Basically, when the green line crosses, when the orange line crosses above the green line, that's usually a sell signal, right? Of course, they didn't trigger last time, but this chart does give you some valuable information, such as that when the price of Bitcoin goes below the orange line, it's generally a good time to buy, right? All these past times, right? 2015, 2018, 19, 2022, and now 2026, right? And now we are just poking the head of Bitcoin right above the orange line, which again is very similar to what we saw in January 2023, right? With that huge weekly candle now above the orange line. And as long as we stay above the orange line, it's basically an indicator that the bull market that the market's in an uptrend, that the bull market has begun, right? So the last thing we'll look at is this price forecast tool, which combines a bunch of top and bottom indicators. And you can see that we're sort of sandwiched in between these lines. We actually didn't touch the bottom indicators like we have in previous cycles, but the fact is we also didn't touch the top. So, I mean, I don't really see that as a big deal. Like it doesn't necessarily have to go any lower, but generally speaking, we're in sort of like a middle zone, right? And I've heard some people on X say that we haven't had a 4-year cycle yet, right? That this is still the mid cycle. I don't know if I necessarily buy that. I think this is a pretty solid bear market year. We're down over 50% from the top to the bottom. So I still think the 4-year cycle is still on, and usually you want to give benefit of the doubt to patterns that have happened historically or so. But nonetheless, I do think that this is still pretty close to the bottom. So anyways, the point is that all of these indicators are saying that now is generally a good time to buy. Even though we had a 20+% move last week, we're still just coming out of the bear market, right? It's still pretty early days. Again, not to brag, but I did get the prediction right. It was back in July, predicting that this would have a move up higher. And the last thing I want to talk about is, of course, the 200-week moving average, which I had talked about in the chart on X, but I didn't talk about here, which is that in my last video, it was about around here, right, in late June. I basically said we had to defend this level, right? And it worked out beautifully. We're here for the last 2 months. And after defending 200-week moving average, it basically ripped up higher, right? And the 200-week moving average is very important because if you look at the history of Bitcoin, going all the way back to 2015, right? Every time it's defended the 200-week moving average, the 200-week moving average has always acted as support. And when it defends that level, it tends to rip up into a new bull market, right? Here in 2018, 2019, and here in 2022. And interestingly, the 2022 bear market was the bear market where we spent the most time below, right? And once we ripped up above it, retested a couple times, it just ripped up higher, right? So now I do think that we're seeing something similar. We basically were here for a couple of weeks, right? And we kind of dip below, but the bears couldn't bring it below 60,000, right? And it just ripped up higher. So again, in summary, I'm very bullish. I do believe that the bear market bottom is over. I do believe that the new bull market is starting now. The 4-year cycle is still on until proven otherwise, in my opinion. I don't think we're in a mid-cycle like a lot of people on X are saying. I do think that this breakout that we saw this week is very similar to what we saw in late 2022, early 2023, and also in April of 2019, this is just the big breakout that is leading to higher prices. Of course, in the short term, medium term, I do think that we're going to consolidate around 80,000 for a while because that's just where we were rejected hard. 30% drop, right, back in May. So it makes sense to consolidate around here. Once this consolidation shows that we can defend this level, we'll probably see a move higher. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who will enter short positions, a lot of people who are hoping for lower prices, right, to retrace this move. And they're basically probably gonna get squeezed out of the position as the price moves higher. And the next level of resistance is probably gonna be around 90,000, which is the next cluster of consolidation, right? Now, of course, we gotta talk about the bearish possibility because that's always a possibility, right? If we retrace this entire move, if we go below 200 moving average, that's very bearish in my opinion, and that will probably lead to lower prices. But for now, based on historical trends, based on everything that I just discussed, everything seems to be looking more towards a bullish, positive future. So I'm very excited and happy that Bitcoin had a nice move. And again, sorry if I didn't make videos in the last 2 months. I'm sort of deciding the direction of this YouTube channel, whether I want to post more luxury lifestyle stuff or post more videos, which I'm not really getting as much engagement on. but I'm trying to reach a compromise now, and I'll probably try to post at least one Bitcoin related video a month. But yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, leave a comment below, and subscribe for our updates. I appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.